It was a cold winter night in 1997 in La Crosse, Wisconsin. College campuses were alive with students, laughter, and weekend freedom. Among them was a 21-year-old man named Patrick McNeil, a bright, athletic, and popular college student. That night, he joined his friends for a few drinks at a downtown bar. But what began as a fun night out would soon become the beginning of a terrifying mystery that still haunts investigators to this day. As the hours passed, Patrick grew tired. Witnesses said he looked unwell, possibly intoxicated, and decided to leave the bar alone. He wandered off into the chilly night, disappearing into the streets under the glow of yellow lamps. No one could have guessed that he was walking into the pages of one of the most unsettling theories in modern crime history. 2 months later, Patrick's body was found floating in the East River in New York City, 40 miles from where he was last seen. The authorities ruled it an accidental drowning, another case of a young man who had too much to drink. Another tragic but explainable death. As the police filed their reports, others began noticing odd details. Patrick's body had traveled much farther than typical river flow would allow. His clothes were neatly in place. His watch still worked. There were burn marks on his body. And then, most chilling of all, a small graffiti smiley face was found painted on a nearby wall, close to where he had gone missing. At first, no one thought much of it. Just a piece of random street art. But it wouldn't be the last time a smiley face appeared near a suspicious drowning. This was no coincidence. It was a calling card. And Patrick McNeil, many believe, was the first victim of something much bigger, something darker. Who was behind the smiley face? A lone serial killer? A group? A cult? Or was it all in the minds of over-curious detectives? Whatever the answer. The fear had already begun to spread. Years passed after Patrick McNeil's mysterious death. More young men vanished. More bodies surfaced in rivers. Each time, the official cause was accidental drowning. But a pair of retired New York City detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, refused to let it go. They began connecting the dots. Each victim was male. Each one was athletic, smart, and popular. Most were last seen at bars or college parties. All of them vanished near water and were found days or weeks later in rivers, lakes, or canals, sometimes miles from where they disappeared. More disturbing was the strange presence of a smiley face graffiti. The detectives claimed to find that symbol, spray-painted near locations where the men were last seen or where their bodies were found. Different cities, different victims, but the same eerie mark. This was no longer about one case. It was a national puzzle. Gannon and Duarte gave it a name, the Smiley Face Killers theory. Some thought it was crazy. Others called them conspiracy theorists. But Gannon had something stronger than speculation. He had data. More than 40 cases, each with similar details. Too many similarities to ignore. They believed the killers were part of a well-organized network. Not a lone serial killer, but a group, moving from city to city. A group that watched, waited, and targeted their victims carefully. Young men, at their most vulnerable, alone, slightly drunk, easy to overpower. But why? That question haunts the case to this day. Was it a thrill? Ritual? Revenge? The FBI remained skeptical. They reviewed many of the cases and claimed no signs of homicide. But for Gannon and Duarte, the signs were everywhere. If only others would look closer. The media picked up the story. Podcasts, documentaries, and true crime shows began exploring the theory. Parents of victims who had long been told it was an accident suddenly started asking new questions. Some even remembered seeing the same smiley face near the last known locations of their sons. The pattern was real. The fear was growing. The stories of the victims are the most haunting part of the Smiley Face Killers theory. Young men with bright futures, lives full of promise. Take Chris Jenkins, for example. He was a 21-year-old University of Minnesota student, last seen on Halloween night in 2002. He was wearing a Native American costume, having fun with friends at a bar. Then, 4 months later, his body was pulled from the Mississippi River. The official story? Accidental drowning. But his family didn't believe it, and neither did Kevin Gannon. Chris's body was found fully clothed. No signs of water damage or bloating typical of someone in water for that long. His hands were crossed neatly over his chest. The case was reopened and later ruled a homicide. Then there was Tommy Booth from Pennsylvania. He disappeared in 2008 after leaving a bar with friends. His body was found 14 days later in a creek behind the same bar. The strange thing? Search teams had scoured that creek several times already and never found anything. It was as if the body had been placed there after the fact. And then, Joey LaBute Jr., a young man from Ohio. He disappeared from a crowded nightclub in 2016. Surveillance showed him entering, but never leaving. His body was found later in the Scioto River. No signs of trauma. Another accidental drowning. Each of these cases has similar threads. College-age males, nights out, missing time, water, no clear injuries, and, in some cases, smiley faces nearby. Are these just tragic coincidences? Or something far more chilling? Families were left with questions, police reports that didn't make sense, timelines that didn't match, and a gut feeling that something was wrong. But without physical evidence, no DNA, no fingerprints, no confessions, it's almost impossible to build a solid case. The killers, if they exist, are careful, precise, invisible. Some believe this is what makes them so terrifying. They're like ghosts in the shadows, striking and disappearing. And the smiley face? It's not just a symbol, it's a signature. It's one of the creepiest parts of the whole theory, the smiley face. Found spray-painted on walls, bridges, tunnels, and trees near where some bodies were discovered. Sometimes it's big, sometimes small, sometimes fresh, and sometimes faded, but almost always near water. To some, it's just graffiti, a popular symbol seen in almost every city. But to detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, it was a calling card, a sign left behind, taunting investigators and marking territory. They started mapping the locations of bodies and smiley faces. What they found was chilling. Dozens of cases, all with a similar pattern. Young men, water, and a smiley face within sight. Some of the symbols had devil horns. Others had a wide, exaggerated grin. Some had messages beneath them, like evil happy face or initials and dates. It didn't feel random. Scene by scene, the pattern grew. Gannon and Duarte became convinced they weren't looking at a lone killer, but a network, a group, maybe even an online-connected cult of thrill-seekers or sadists. The FBI, however, wasn't convinced. In a public statement, they said there was no solid evidence linking the deaths or the smiley faces. But critics argue, if these were just accidents, how do you explain the similar victims, the missing time, the strange positioning of the bodies, and the smiley face left like a ghostly fingerprint? One investigator said, "If this were one or two cases, maybe I'd shrug it off, but we're talking about dozens. Across the country, over years." Some believe the smiley face is more than just a taunt. It's psychological, a twisted joke, a contrast between something happy and something evil. Others think it, maybe a code, maybe a way the killers communicate. Some even believe there are hidden meanings in the graffiti styles, the paint colors, and the placement. But nothing's been proven. And as more time passes, the paint fades. Evidence gets washed away, and the case remains in limbo. What if someone escaped? This question haunted detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, because if the Smiley Face Killers were real, someone somewhere might have lived to tell the story. And some did. Meet Chris Jenkins, a 21-year-old college student in Minneapolis. He vanished after leaving a downtown bar on Halloween night. 4 months later, his body was found in the Mississippi River. His arms were crossed on his chest. His shirt was tucked in. Strange for someone who supposedly drowned while intoxicated. But after years of fighting, Chris's parents got the case reopened. Finally, it was ruled a homicide. Police admitted something was off. Another chilling story came from a man named Todd. He was walking home late at night after drinking with friends when a van pulled up beside him. A group of men tried to grab him. He ran, barely got away. He didn't report it at the time, but after seeing stories of other missing students, he believes he was almost one of them. There's also the case of Dakota James, a bright student who vanished in Pittsburgh. Security footage showed him looking lost, confused. His body was found in a river 40 days later, but his family doesn't believe he drowned accidentally. They said his body looked too preserved, almost as if it had been stored somewhere before being placed in the water. Then came new reports from college towns, students receiving strange messages, being followed by strangers at night, or noticing unmarked vans outside parties. It seemed like the killers were watching, studying, waiting. And though many of these reports didn't lead to arrests, the fear spread. Students started warning each other. Reddit threads lit up. People began saying, "Don't walk home alone. Watch your drinks." The Smiley Face Killers are still out there. The survivors' stories may not all be connected, but they share a theme, a close call with something dark. And if they're telling the truth, it means the killers don't always succeed. Which means someone out there may have seen them, may even recognize them, but time is running out. By now, many people were convinced that the Smiley Face Killers were just a myth. But not everyone agreed, because buried inside the files, the maps, and the timelines, there were clues that didn't make sense, and clues that couldn't be ignored. Let's go back to 2008. A young man named Joey LaBute II vanished after leaving a bar in Columbus, Ohio. His body was found weeks later in the Scioto River. Police said it was drowning, but something strange happened when his family reviewed the timeline. There was no footage of him leaving the bar. His phone had suddenly gone offline. And most importantly, he didn't like water. His family said he wouldn't have gone near the river, especially alone. And guess what? Just a short walk from where his body was found, there was a smiley face spray-painted on a concrete wall. Coincidence? Let's talk about the Gannon-Duarte theory. These two former detectives had tracked over 45 cases where young men had drowned under odd circumstances. The pattern was always the same. All were athletic, smart, and college-aged. Most had been drinking. All were found in water. And many had been missing for weeks. Yet their bodies showed little signs of decomposition. Some were even missing their wallets and shoes. In crime scenes, small details can be everything. One medical examiner found ligature marks on a victim's neck, suggesting possible strangulation, but the cause of death was still ruled as drowning. Another had foam in his lungs, a rare sign that the person may have died under duress, not peacefully. And in several cases, when their clothes were wrongly worn. How does that happen? Could it be the victims were dressed by someone else after death? Could it be these weren't accidents? Yet even with all this, law enforcement still said no foul play. So the question becomes, are we missing something? Is there a group outsmarting police at every turn? Or are these isolated tragedies that look suspicious when lined up? While police pushed the idea of accidental drowning, the internet had other plans. In chat rooms, forums, Reddit threads, and YouTube videos, amateur investigators, also called web sleuths, began digging deeper. What they found sent chills down their spines. A woman named Kate, who ran a small true crime blog, started connecting dots. She mapped 50-plus drowning cases of young men across 11 states. She noticed that many of the victims disappeared in groups of 3. In some cases, within miles of each other. All were last seen near bars, and many had their phones or wallets mysteriously gone. Kate's map looked like a spiderweb across the U.S., all connected by pins and strings. Right in the middle of one cluster, a smiley face spray-painted under a bridge. She wasn't the only one. A college student from Minnesota created a timeline showing that many of the drownings occurred on the same dates each year, usually late fall or early spring. Chillingly, he discovered that many of those dates matched pagan ritual calendars, including ones that involved water ceremonies or sacrifice. Coincidence? Or a disturbing pattern? Some even believed this was the work of a highly organized cult or a network of killers who used coded messages online to track, select, and eliminate victims. Some Redditors claimed they found strange accounts posting cryptic smiley emojis near the times of new disappearances, like a calling card hidden in plain sight. Meanwhile, podcasts and YouTubers took notice. The story became a wildfire. People started to say, this is more than a theory. This is a system. One chilling theory suggested the killers may pose as helpful strangers, offering rides or pretending to be security or Uber drivers. Then, they lure victims away and leave no trace. When their bodies are found weeks later, the story is already written, just another tragic accident. But more and more people aren't buying that anymore. So now we ask, could there really be a group watching, planning, and killing? If so, why do the police keep turning away? And who's next? As more bodies were pulled from rivers, the official answer stayed the same: accidental drowning. But not everyone in law enforcement agreed. 2 retired New York City detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper, darker, and more organized was behind these deaths. They'd seen too much, evidence that didn't match the reports. Bodies found too far downstream, missing personal items, no water in the lungs, and signs that some victims had been dead long before entering the water. They began their own investigation. Over months, they poured through hundreds of police reports, autopsy records, and news clippings. They built a case around more than 40 victims, all male, athletic, smart, and vanishing after nights out drinking. Each time, a smiley face was found spray-painted near where the body was discovered. Not always obvious, sometimes faded, sometimes small, but always present. Kevin and Anthony believed the smiley face wasn't just a coincidence. It was a signature, a taunt, a message. They presented their findings to the FBI and local departments, but most rejected their theory. Officials said there was no evidence of a serial pattern. that it was just the internet fueling panic. One officer even said, "People see what they want to see. A smiley face doesn't make a murderer." But then, why were so many cases never properly investigated? Why did parents have to beg for second autopsies? Why did some departments lose crucial evidence? Some say it's because police don't want to admit they missed something. Others believe they're hiding it on purpose. Kevin and Anthony took their findings public through documentaries, books, and podcasts. Their message was clear. This isn't one killer. This is a group. They're smart, organized, and they're still out there. And the most terrifying part? They might be hiding in plain sight. Doctors, teachers, delivery drivers, anyone. The case was now split in two. Those who believed the Smiley Face Killers were real, and those who still said it's just a myth. But with more young men vanishing each year, one thing became clear. Silence is no longer an option. As traditional news kept quiet, the internet started to speak. True crime forums lit up. Reddit threads exploded. TikTok and YouTube were full of theories, timelines, and eerie maps of where the bodies were found. Strangers began connecting dots. Someone posted a side-by-side of 20 crime scenes, and in almost every photo, somewhere in the background, a smiley face. Some said it was just a prank. Others said it was the work of a secret society. A few thought it was tied to the dark web, a twisted community sharing plans, tracking victims, and rewarding those who completed the mission. A viral theory emerged. The Smiley Face Killers are part of a highly organized network, using codes, symbols, and encrypted chats to plan their next victim. Even more disturbing were the posts from people claiming to have narrowly escaped. One man shared a video describing a night out where he blacked out after 2 drinks. He woke up in an alley, soaking wet, bruises on his arms, and no memory of what happened. He reported it to the police. They dismissed it, said he probably just fell. But that man knew. Someone had tried to take him. As these stories spread, families of the victims finally found support. Online communities formed. People who had never met before, now working together to collect evidence, pressure police, and honor the victims' memories. Documentaries like Smiley Face Killers: The Hunt for Justice hit streaming platforms. Podcast episodes were downloaded millions of times. Everywhere, people started asking, why aren't these cases reopened? But not everyone liked the attention. Some posts disappeared overnight. Users were banned. A few even claimed they were being watched after digging too deep. The mystery was no longer just about the killings. Now it was about a system. One that either couldn't catch the killers or didn't want to. One comment went viral. They didn't just kill these boys. They erased their stories. Until now, the Smiley Face Killers may have left graffiti at crime scenes. But the internet painted a much bigger picture, one that millions were finally beginning to see. By now, the story had gone beyond strange deaths. A clear pattern was emerging. Most victims were young men, college students in their early 20s. They were athletic, smart, and well-liked. They were almost always seen last at bars or parties, drinking, celebrating, enjoying life. Then they'd vanish. Days or weeks later, their bodies would turn up in a river or lake, miles from where they were last seen. But here's where it gets strange. Toxicology reports often didn't match drowning. Some showed little to no water in their lungs. Some had marks on their wrists, on their necks. Some were missing shoes or wallets, but not phones. How could so many smart young men accidentally end up dead in the same way? And then there was the timing. One victim found in New York, 3 days later, another in Minnesota. A week later, another in Wisconsin. Always just far enough apart for someone to move between them. Could it be one person? 2? Or was this a network? Detectives Duarte and Gannon on C believed it might be dozens of people, connected by an untraceable system. Private forums, encrypted chat rooms, maybe even dark web contracts. One chilling clue. The smiley face symbols were never all the same. Some were spray-painted, some carved into walls. One was even scratched into a rock by a riverbank. It was as if each killer left their signature, but added the same dark wink. As the media stayed silent and the police stayed skeptical, the families of victims began to feel abandoned. A mother of one victim said, "He was my only son. The police told me it was an accident, but I saw his body. That was no accident. The more you look, the less it feels random. It feels like staging. A series of deaths meant to look natural, but full of hidden signs. Almost like a performance, a show for those who understand the code. And with every ignored case, the killers get bolder. They don't leave clues to get caught. They leave clues to show they're still in control. And what's worse, they may be watching the news. They may be reading the forums. They may be watching this video, smiling. For years, police said the deaths were just accidents. Drunk students falling into rivers. No foul play. But the private investigators and families of the victims weren't convinced. They believed someone, or some group, was behind these deaths. And now their biggest question echoed louder than ever. Who is really behind this? The theory gained traction. Some believed it was a serial killer. Others thought it was a gang. Maybe even several working together across states. They all left behind the same strange calling card. A smiley face spray-painted near the water where the bodies were found. The smiley face wasn't the kind you see in emojis or on t-shirts. This one was eerie, crudely drawn, often faded and hidden. But once you knew what to look for, you couldn't unsee it. Retired NYPD detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte believed the killers were organized and smart, too smart to get caught. They theorized these criminals used the internet to communicate. They stalked their victims, knew their schedules, and made sure there was no evidence left behind. Some theories got even darker. Was it a cult? A twisted group acting on shared beliefs? Was there something ritualistic about the pattern of the killings? No one could say for sure. But the fear grew. And yet, still no one has ever been arrested. That's what makes this story so chilling. Even after years of investigations, television specials, and podcasts, the people responsible, if they exist, remain in the shadows, watching, waiting, and maybe still out there. Some believe the killers have changed their methods. They don't always leave a smiley face anymore. Maybe they know they're being watched. Maybe they've adapted. Others think they've gone underground or moved to new locations. But the fear lingers. Parents still tell their kids, "Don't walk home alone at night." Friends hold tighter to each other after parties. And for the families of the victims, closure never came. They're still asking the same question: who took their child and why? The story of the Smiley Face Killers doesn't end with answers. It ends with questions. And those questions still haunt the families, the investigators, and anyone who's dared to follow the clues. Over the years, the deaths kept happening. Young, promising men disappearing under the same eerie circumstances, always near water, always after a night out, always found too late. Some call it coincidence, others call it evil. The official reports mostly stayed the same. No foul play suspected. But to the people paying close attention, those words were like a door slamming shut, leaving the truth trapped inside. Investigators like Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte haven't stopped. They continue speaking at conferences, appearing in documentaries, and digging for answers. For them, this case isn't about proving the cheer. Oh, it's real. It's about justice for the families who never got it. And the families? They've become their own kind of detectives. Some have joined online forums, comparing notes with strangers. Others have created memorial foundations, hoping to raise awareness so this never happens again. But there's always a sense of something unfinished, like a page missing from a book, or a puzzle that's almost complete, but the final piece is gone. The most chilling part? These deaths haven't stopped completely. Every few years, another case emerges. Same pattern, same questions. And occasionally, someone finds another smiley face, spray-painted where it shouldn't be. The killers, if they're real, could still be out there, watching, waiting, or maybe they're closer than we think. So here's the message to the audience, straight from the people who've studied this mystery for decades. Stay aware. Protect your friends. Don't walk away alone. Because the truth is, we still don't know who's behind the smile. And until we do, the story isn't over. If this story gave you chills, you're not alone. What do you think is happening? Is there really a hidden group behind the smiley faces? Or is it all just a coincidence? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts might lead someone else to the truth. If you're into chilling, unsolved mysteries and real-life crimes that still haunt us, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay aware, and always walk home with a friend.